Hey guys, Assalamu alaikum. So this is a video I've been meaning to make for some time now, but I just never got to sit down and make it. So here it is finally. This is about eczema and how we dealt with my second son's eczema. So Zidane was born a preemie baby. I have to tell this part because I feel like what goes on in the pregnancy and the mother's diet and how the baby was born also plays a certain role in the skin type and eczema as their babies. So Zidane was born as a preemie. He was born at just a little shy of 35 weeks, so he wasn't even completing 35. So I'm pretty sure he was 34 and a few days, and then there you go, he was born. So my water broke. He was just a little shy of 35 weeks. The doctor felt that it would be better for him if he stayed in the womb for a little longer. So we tried to stall the labor as much as possible. So I was under antibiotics to prevent any sort of infection for me and for the baby as well. So about 2 days I was under antibiotics until my body could no longer take it, and then the doctor felt okay, it's time to bring the baby out, and I got induced. So I feel this might be why he went on to have eczema, because antibiotics really screw up the gut health. So that's what happened initially, and then when he was born, he was all fine. He seemed okay. He was I did feel that he had sensitive skin, but nothing too dry, nothing too dramatic, and we were fine until he turned 2 months. And when he turned 2 months, the way eczema appeared was a little bit strange, because the first time I started noticing discoloration around his nappy area. So, but he didn't seem like he was in pain or there was any itching, and we were washing him, so we were not using wipes. So I was pretty sure that he wouldn't be having a nappy rash, but also confused at the same time with all the discoloration around his nappy area. And then a few weeks later, I noticed a spot in his tummy region, and it wasn't like a rash, but it was like raised, bumpy, chicken-like skin. And I couldn't pinpoint what it really was, but I started treating it like a rash. So I was applying I was keeping it moisturized and just applying a lot of creams and just treating it like a rash, and making sure there wasn't any wetness around that area. And then eventually it began to grow bigger and bigger, and that's when I knew, okay, it didn't look like a rash. So initially I thought it was a fungus, because it was round and it was huge, and it was turning white now. And the skin in that region had also grown really dry, to a point that it was cracking, and there was even some sort of bleeding. And that's when I felt that, okay, I need to go to the doctor now. So when I went to the doctor, she told me the obvious, the one that I was fearing. She said, this is eczema, and looks like we have to get him treated for it. So the first thing that she gave me was a steroid cream. I wasn't too happy about it, but I did use it for that week. He also had a really bad cradle cap. It was something that I had dealt with for my firstborn, but it wasn't as worse as what Zidane was having. So we had a steroid for the cradle cap, and then we had a steroid cream to use for the patch in his tummy. It improved that week that I was using the steroids. It really helped. The patch did turn white, and the doctor told me that the discoloration will disappear as time progresses. And it all looked good. I thought, okay, we were done with this. But later, a week later, it reappeared again, and this time it was nastier. And it looked like it was spreading, so it wasn't just growing bigger, there was another spot right behind his back, and it looked he was getting incredibly itching behind his ear. So there was a spot behind the ear, and there were a few spots right behind the neck. So it was a really scary situation. He looked really uncomfortable. His skin was discolored in various spots, and he seemed to be itching a lot. And I felt using the steroid was just making things worse, because it was curing the situation at hand, but it felt like the minute I stopped, it was reoccurring, and it was even worse. So it felt like it wasn't helping at all. So I went back to another doctor, and she told me, okay, I need to stop using the steroids because he's just 2 months and it wouldn't do him any good to use it on the long term. And that's what I felt too. So I've heard from loads of people, including my own cousin who dealt with eczema, that steroids can thin the skin. It can make your skin incredibly sensitive to the sun, and considering that these are just kids and they will be playing out in the sun, and they will grow up and will be out in the sun, they will be out in pools, I didn't feel that it was going to help him with that. It might just make things worse. So steroids were a no. And even now when people ask me, is there a solution for eczema, I would say look for other alternatives, but never use steroids, because over the course of time, steroids can actually do more harm than good for people with eczema. So no steroids at all. And so this pediatrician, the pediatrician that I went for the second time, she told me that, okay, we need to stop with the steroids because he's still pretty young, and he was still a newborn at that point. And we need to focus on helping his skin store moisture. So the thing with people with eczema is, it is not a disease, it is not a rash. It is a very common misconception that people think it is a rash or it is a disease, or they think it's going to spread from one person to another. And there's just a whole lot of stigma when it comes to eczema, including certain things that we experienced as parents. Whenever we would change his diaper, or we would change his clothes in front of others, they would always question us, like, what's that, what's this, is it a rash, you gotta use this cream, you gotta use that cream. We just felt completely blindsided, and nobody completely understood what we were dealing with. And it took a lot of effort to explain to everyone, no, he isn't dealing with a disease, he isn't dealing with a rash. You can't treat it like a rash. It's something else, and there are other ways you need to treat it. Eczema is autoimmune response. So it is an immune response from the body when it can't recognize external or internal factors. So you can have an atopic dermatitis, which is when things like your clothes or dust or just other materials like plastic or silicone or something touches your body, and your skin doesn't recognize it and starts sending its immune response to that area, and that area begins to grow a patch called eczema. So since it's your own body's response, there isn't much that you can do to treat it with medication, apart from topical medication and just a few dietary changes. And the other thing about eczema is people with eczema, their skin malfunctions in which the skin isn't able to hold moisture in, so the skin is always dry. So you always have to work on keeping the skin moisturized. So that's what the second doctor and we were working on. So the first thing that I did to deal with his eczema, the change that I made was change the detergent. Although we were using a baby detergent, I just felt that it wasn't doing much for his sensitive skin. So I went on to get an enzyme-based detergent, and I think it did wonders. And let me tell you why I think detergent is a huge part because the clothes that they wear is constantly rubbing against the skin, and there's a lot of friction between the skin and the clothes itself. And also, just, you know, the detergents, the cleaners, and the stuff that we use around the house can also play a major part when dealing with eczema, because there's just a whole lot of chemicals, and most of them not good for just a normal person. So considering how that isn't good for a normal person, it can actually do great damage to the skin of a person with eczema or dealing with dry skin. So I went on to change the detergent first, and then we changed the floor cleaner, and just most cleaners and soaps and things around the house. And I feel that helped my family as an overall effect. So it started with Zidane in mind, but then it turned into a change that we've all embraced as a family. So we would be a more cleaner family now than we were a year ago. And then the second thing that I did was to include probiotics in his diet and my diet, because I was breastfeeding. Taking probiotics helped him through the breast milk, and giving him probiotics initially started for his colic, and then I realized as I was giving him probiotic, his eczema and his skin was also improving. And I did a research on that topic, and I found out that there is scientific evidence that proves probiotics improves gut health, and gut health is directly linked to your skin, how strong your skin barrier is, and how well your skin copes up with just other external factors. So probiotics is amazing. I would say give it to all your kids. It just enhances their mood, their skin, their intelligence, their IQ, and just their immune response. So probiotics for the win. The third one was a topical change. So I changed the creams that he was using. I felt they were not doing much, and I went on to use this brand. So this is from the 4-Cow Farm, and I used the entire range for that. I still use it for him, but this is the star product. This is the Calendula Remedy, and it did wonders for his skin. So it is thick. So I would apply a thick layer over his dry patches, not over his entire body. So I would go with a lighter lotion like this, and then apply the Calendula Remedy. And it did wonders in just keeping the moisture in, and it also soothed the skin. So his skin was patchy and itchy, so it also helped with that. So he wasn't scratching or tugging at it anymore like he was doing. And at the same time, I think overall it started improving his skin barrier. His skin was a lot stronger, and it was holding in more moisture than before. So this is one brand that I love. I don't know what I would do if they were discontinued. This is something that I always stock up and keep it in hand with Zidane. So when he's out at the pool, I would use it as a precautionary thing, and I would slather him on with the Calendula Remedy. And if he's out in the sun, and I just feel that his skin is getting drier, like during the winter times or even during summer, because we don't have a lot of humidity inside the house. The houses are dry, so I feel like that doesn't do much good for his skin. So anyways, Calendula Remedy is always there. And now, because we are eczema free, alhamdulillah, I use this one, the QV Baby Moisturizing Cream. This is the extra hydration. This really helps. It doesn't really help with extremely dry skin, but now that we're past that stage, it just helps keep the moisture in. And once he's out of the bath and his skin is still moist, I slather this on him and wait for the skin to soak up, and then rest him up. So this one helps too. Just changing things around him. So we were constantly changing his bed sheets, the toys that he was playing with, I made sure that they were all chemical free, and they didn't have any toxins. So that was a dramatic change. To end on what we did to deal with eczema, there are a few pointers and things that I learned along the way of dealing with eczema for him. So the first one is no oils. So a lot of the time people would treat it like a rash, and they would give things that are very cultural or traditional or just home remedies that they've tried, which necessarily wouldn't work for everybody and every baby. And oil was one such thing. So someone recommended coconut oil. I slathered coconut oil very hesitantly because I had a feeling that it wasn't going to do any good, but since they said it, I was ready to try anything at that point. So I slathered coconut oil on him, and it was the worst. Just 10 minutes in, it made his skin extremely dry, and his skin was like parched, and it was cracking and it was bleeding. That was the worst reaction that we've ever had to anything we've used. So it was really, really bad. And I did a few reading on coconut oil, and I found out that it actually has a lot of hyaluronic acid. And the way hyaluronic acid works is it takes the moisture in from the air, and it gives it back to your skin. So if there is no moisture in the air, it's actually going to remove the moisture from your skin, or what was left of it for people with eczema, and it's going to make the skin even more dry. So no to oils. And the other thing that I began doing once every week was giving him an oat bath. So I would just take some rolled oats, allow it to soak in his water, his bath water, for about 30 minutes or more for better results. And I would use this to slowly massage into his skin and slowly rub it. It really just soothed his skin. And I would not go on to use body wash after that. So it was just the oat bath, and it really did help. And another thing is keeping bath times really short and sweet. There was no hot water. We wouldn't use hot water. We would use very mild warm water on him, and we would keep the bath times as quick as possible. And we also limited his bath to just every alternate day. So he wasn't having a bath every alternate day. And at that point where he wasn't even crawling or where he wasn't eating any solids, he wasn't getting dirty as much. So he didn't have to have a bath basically every day. So limiting the amount of baths that he was having also really improved his skin. So that's pretty much it. I hope this video helps you guys, and I hope it really helps mommies with babies with eczema, because it really is a strain on the baby. It really is even more bigger strain on the mommy, because there isn't much research on eczema. You could go to many doctors. They could all say one thing, but when it comes down to actually dealing with eczema, it is a lot more complicated. And what works for one person or one baby will not work for another baby. So I think there still needs to be a lot of research done on eczema. It isn't life-threatening as such, and it isn't going to change the quality of life. Maybe slightly, but not too much. But it does affect mentally. That's what I felt it did for me. So I hope this video helps, and if you guys have any doubts or anything, you can always hit me up in the comment section, or I do post a lot of things on my Instagram page, so you can check me on my Instagram page. So for now, until next time, bye bye.